Good morning, good day. Yes, okay. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone who is joining and who's yet to join. Um, Thank you for being here today. We are kind of getting together here for a global virtual launch of a whole bunch of very, very inspiring stories of women across the world around ecosystem restoration. And today we'll get to hear some of them and we'll get to see what kind of things happen when women lead restoration initiative. So with that, we have a very exciting next hour or so happening, and we will move on to just the quick basic house rules. If you can. So, as usual, we request all of you who are joining to keep your mics muted as and when the speakers are speaking. We do have interpretation for this session in French, and please use the globe icon on your right hand side and choose English. This session is also being recorded and being streamed live on YouTube. So, in case if you miss it or if you want to catch this later, please do follow the Women for Biodiversity YouTube page so that you get um, you can share this session with all your friends and family and colleagues. And for your question answer, please do include them in the chat box, and we or raise your hand, and we will take them at the end of when the presenters are done sharing about their case studies. Um, so with that, we have with us Mrinalini Rai. She is the Director for Women for Biodiversity, and she works on policy and advocacy and research on the intersection of gender equality and women and girls' rights and environmental justice. She has been working for many years in environmental governance and human rights issues, particularly focused on integrating Indigenous peoples and local communities' rights, including women's rights, into the decisions of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Without much further ado, I'm going to invite Mrinalini Rai to open this session for us. Over to you.
Thanks, Shruti, and thanks for everybody who has joined us today. Why I think we'll start off is the importance of having this launch. As we all know that we do recognize that women play a very key role in conservation initiatives, including restoration. This project was visioned in response to some of the aspirations of the CBD, which is a Convention on Biological Diversity, also aligning it with the outcome that came out of this 15th session of the Conference of the Parties, the COP15 in December in Montreal. One of the targets within the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework is Target 2, which is on restoration. Then you also have Target 23, which is a standalone target on gender equality. And what we are trying to do is to build a network or a community of practice. So I think Shruti will share a bit more about it. But the work for where Women for Biodiversity embarked on this project over this 3 years has been to bring together a collective of community restoration initiatives, with also strengthening the focus on amplifying the roles, aspirations, and the work that women collectively were doing in various ecosystems. So I'm really, really happy to be here to welcome the speakers that we have today, to also have a sharing of their experiences, their engagements, and their learnings. The vision for having this webinar was also to amplify the work of our partners, and also with the idea that this is what are the ground realities, the lived experiences on the ground. And when we are working towards the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, what we also really need to ensure is these projects, these initiatives, these models of resilience, and these women who are agents of change are recognized, are supported, and also that these practices are further amplified, further outreached, because I think what sometimes we miss around in the discussion around biodiversity conservation is that the aspirations of ensuring gender equality and these practices, learnings, we hope will support and share to make an inclusive or rights or gender justice approach to the whole of the vision of the CBD, which is also on not only conservation, but also on sustainable use, the second pillar, but also on the access and benefit sharing that make up the component of the convention, to ensure that these aspirations, these learnings, these recommendations also ensure that the vision of the convention, which is living in harmony with nature, do also bring in these perspectives into focus. So with that, Shruti, I'm also looking forward to also learning and hearing from our project partners. So thank you so much for taking the time of joining us today. And we also have some updates to share at the end of this session. So with that, a warm welcome from not only me from Women for Biodiversity, but the whole team. And with that, Shruti, back to you.
Thank you so much, Rinalini, for that lovely, lovely positive note. In the meantime, I would also request those who are joining to share a brief introduction about yourself in the chat box so that can also get to know you better and also reach out in case there are future work or any kind of things that we would want to do. So, quickly, a global summary of the work that Rinaldi just spoke about is what began in 2021 under a project called Building Resilience and Weaving Gender Responsive Approaches to Biodiversity Governance, began with a multi-pronged approach. And it was at a global level, it was at a space of where we wanted to engage with the CBD processes, the Convention on Biological Diversity, to influence policies to make it more gender responsive. We also wanted to make sure that we engage at a dialogue level, where we want to talk about how to engage at a national and regional level to make sure that gender responsiveness that gets discussed at global policy level are both informed and influences the dialogues that are happening at the regional and local levels. And then, of course, this is the crux of this work, which is where we are in these 6 different um, countries in across various um, regions. So we have starting from Solomon Islands, Myanmar, Kenya, Cameroon, Argentina, and Costa Rica. We have 6 different countries across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Pacific region, where these women-led and women-inclusive, community-led restoration work has been happening. And it has managed to engage more than 500 plus women in this span of 3 years that we have started engaging and we have started also kind of talking. And these kind of restoration work is not something where it's happening new. It's something that has already been an ongoing process, and it's to understand how some of these restoration, when they become a little more gender responsive, what are the changes? Do women approach restoration differently than men? Are there priorities that women have for restoring their specific region, which are different from the men? But also overall, what happens when women are included when in within a community-led initiative? How does that change for everyone? So essentially, that was the purpose of the overall project, to understand how to make ecosystem restoration more gender responsive. Because as of now, you have the Convention on Biological Diversity that are talking about restoration, with the Global Biodiversity Framework of Target 2 that focuses on ecosystem restoration, that talks about restoring 30% of total degraded land and water across by 2030. Then you have the upcoming, also with the upcoming 16th meeting of the Conference of Parties of UNCCD, which is a convention on combating of desertification. You have restoration as a key core focus in UNCCD. And then you have the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration. So this next few years, and even the past few years, have been a core area has been around ecosystem restoration. Yet gender responsiveness and gender concerns have not been adequately addressed in these spaces. And therefore, the intent is to have build conversations around it, develop these conversations through evidence building and documentation. And these documentation is emerging from the case studies from these 6 regions, which are very small, of course. We're just barely scratching the surface. However, these evidence is a, a start towards ensuring that there are initiatives where women and there are where women are included. There are initiatives which are gender responsive. And how does one do that and learn more about it? So um, that's essentially what the global summary for us was, that it is across 6 different countries, different ecosystems where you have mangroves, forests, wetlands, and the coastal dunes. Uh, there is these restoration process have been happening across over 120 hectares of land and water. So today we have 2 sessions, one right now, which is in to make sure that we have space for our partners from all of these regions to be able to join. So we've divided it into Asia Pacific and African region in one. And in the evening, for me, but for some of you later in the day, we have another one focusing in for the Latin American region. So we will have our partners from Costa Rica and Argentina sharing their work in that. So maybe, hopefully, if time allows you, you will be able to join us. So this is the global summary. This is a quick um, uh, flashback of what we've done so far, and this is what we found. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you. So we found when you integrate gender responsive approaches to ecosystem restoration, there are multiple processes of transformation that is not just limited to addressing the restoration of the land. But we also see that when you underdo when a restoration process is being undertaken, it needs to be linked to livelihood for it to be completely for it to be successful. And for that, we have to ensure that, as we all know, economic vulnerability is exacerbated by loss of biodiversity and restricted access. And therefore, to ensure that restoration process is sustained and community owned, linkages to safeguard their livelihoods needs to be established. And we have seen that examples with the cases of, and I don't want to reveal too much of those because our partners are here to talk about those. But we've seen some of those examples of that in Costa Rica, where there's a sea fish market that's been established to enable and strengthen the work that the women in Chomis have been doing. Similarly, food sovereignty and health has been one of the key core areas when women take over restoration work, because for them, restoring a particular landscape is not just about the linkages to restoring the ecosystem, but it's also linked to their identities. It's linked to the food security of the community. It's linked to the food security of the household, because women are the ones who traditionally have been known to collect a lot of non-timber forest produce. And they also have the knowledge of traditional knowledge of medicinal plants, of which is linked to the health of the community and also the animals sometimes, especially if they are agro-pastoralists or pastoralists. So these kind of uh, aspects needs to be taken and considered, especially when we are talking about ecosystem restoration, because there is a direct linkage, which also then allows them be to address aspects of ecosystem restoration. Women are more likely to want to plant medicinal and fruit trees and things that will help address the food insecurities of the region and the community within the restoration. And those are most likely more native to the region and indigenous to the region. So that's another one. With self-determination and autonomy, we have so many of these. Also, with regards to ecosystem restoration, uh, uh, these these processes are also for communities to their um, their assert their autonomy over their territory, to be saying that they want to protect and conserve their own territories. These are and these processes also help strengthen those processes of self-determination and autonomy. Um, Intergenerational dialogue was very fascinating. We found that when restoration was happening, it was also becoming a space for the younger generation to understand the various knowledge transfer that was happening, and reviving of some of the lost knowledge as well, where through conversation you also restore some parts of the lost knowledge of what has happened due to loss of biodiversity and bringing those back. So the restoration processes have also kind of um, enabled some sort of um, intergenerational dialogue. And then, of course, we all know traditional knowledge, innovations, and practices have been the core of a lot of these ecosystem restoration, and needs to be, because it's those knowledge systems that inform how to restore the knowledge system of the local communities and the indigenous people living in the region needs to be the one informing the restoration work that's happening, because they are the ones who carry the knowledge about the region, knowledge about the traditional plants, knowledge about what works and what does not. And those kind of knowledge needs to have the same kind of, or in fact, same kind of importance, or maybe even more, when we are considering restoring or restoration of a region. Um, with these ecosystem restoration that happened, we also realized that once slowly, when of course it started with restoring a particular uh, ecosystem, but also when you see that because of the restoration or due to the other process that is linking to the restoration, like addressing the food security needs and your autonomy needs and the intergenerational dialogues and the various other capacity buildings and recognitions of rights and management and governance, it also leads to putting seeds of thought for the others around to kind of learn what is happening, and that kind of enables some kind of cross pollination and exchange, because these seeds of conversation, these seeds of what has worked and what has not worked, when it goes around, people start learning from each other, and there has been definitely a lot of cross pollination exchanges, not just between these six sites, but also within, when from where other villages have seen and come and learned a lot more from it, and we get to hear more from our partners who have joined us. So I'm not going to take too much time, but we Meenal, if you could go move to the next. So these are some of the overall global recommendations that emerged from all of us sitting and deliberating and discussing for the last 3 years on what could be some of the recommendations that will ensure that there is a gender responsive approach to ecosystem restoration. And we all know that it needs to be based on the principles of equality and equity. We also know that traditional ecological knowledge needs to be recognized and needs to be given the due importance that it has for any kind of restoration to be successful or to be uh, sustainable and resilient. And of course, it cannot go without saying that it definitely has to be in conjunction with the recognition of rights and tenurial rights, because rights recognitions of right is the first step towards acknowledging the pivotal role of local communities, indigenous peoples, especially women, in the conservation and preservation and restoration of the ecosystem. And then, as we all know, livelihood security needs to be integral to a ecosystem restoration process, without which it will surely not go beyond. There is a definite need for us to understand that restoration comes with the aspect of addressing livelihood security, without which it will be back to a project based model that we've all seen and we know does not work in the larger sense of things. And then, of course, addressing human rights based approach and access to justice, um, which includes various aspects of participation, equality, um, uh, different access to justice, protecting the rights of environmental human rights defenders, addressing violence against women. So those are very, very key to ensuring that ecosystem restoration, for it to succeed, these are core and pivotal. And then you have the flexible sources of funding, full, meaningful, and informed participation. I'm sorry. Lobbying and advocacy for public policy, which is happening at various levels, global, national, local. It needs to happen at all levels simultaneously, both at the same time and at different points in time, to inform, so that it's more ground up, and instead of a top down approach. And then, of course, we need some gender disaggregated data, both qualitative and quantitative, to understand the impact of biodiversity loss on women, but also the impact of the restoration on women, to understand whether it is indeed important to understand the disproportionate rate at which biodiversity loss and climate change is impacting women and girls. And then, of course, support for youth and girls, so because they are the next generation, how to do that through intergenerational dialogue, and also to help build their capacities for leadership, for leadership spaces, and to develop their capacities to be able to kind of articulate and also help be in spaces where it is the work that they've been carrying out, conducting those. So, with that recommendations, can we go to the next slide? So, this is the QR code. We will also put the link on the chat box of the various case studies and the various work that's been happening of the case studies and the overall global summary report. Please please go through them at your own time, and we hope you enjoyed a little bit of that. With that, I'm going to jump straight into a very exciting panel. With that, we have first Sunita Kwangta. She is the advocate for Women Research Group of the Karen Environmental and Social Action Network, ISAN, in Myanmar. Um, she is, for the 2 years, she's been working with Karen indigenous women to document and preserve local biodiversity in Salween Peace Park, Kautule, which is a Karen state in Myanmar. She focuses on empowering women through research collaboration and environmental conservation. Um, Sunita, over to you. Let us know if you would want to share your PPT or if you want us to share.
I think you can share my PPT.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Women for Biodiversity, for organizing this. Thank you so much for having me. Also, thank you to our participants. So, yes, I think I don't need to introduce myself anymore. So, yeah, wait for the. Okay. So, I'm Sunita Kwangta. I work with a women research group and work for current environmental and social network action. So I would like to highlight how the women research group work linked conservation to a human rights-based approach. That they emphasize the gender equality, cultural preservation, and environmental stewardship. So next slide, please. So I would like to start from the background a bit of our restoration site. So in this case, so in this case study, we focuses on the northern area of Salween Peace Park in current state in southeastern Myanmar. So the current KNU union or the current national union or KNU, they has governed much of this region and also known as Gothule or current homeland for many years and is recognized locally, and however some area still under the control of like Burmese government, and they all are jointly managed. So since the 2021, so the Burmese central government, they are influencing in the region and has weakened due to the ongoing conflict. So our women research group doing the research within the Salween Peace Park. So the Salween Peace Park is a large conservation area on the Myanmar and Thailand border, which is spanning about 6,000 square kilometers. And it's important for us to protect the environment and promote your peace, self-governance, and to promote how indigenous current people or how indigenous people can be a leadership in the conservation. So the park is then out because local current community, they manage it by themselves. And it also, the Peace Park also serves as a successful example of indigenous-led conservation and sustainable resource use. So next slide, please. So women resource group knowledge is important for the environmental government because indigenous women, especially indigenous women, they have a unique knowledge, they have a different perspective. So why we gather the young women or the local women to take lead in the research? Because they identify those species directly from their men. So while they start recording like ethnobotany, fish, mushroom, the previous publication like orchid. So by recording the biodiversity and important species, the group also have like created the local conservation guideline. So this guideline allow community to take a lead in the conservation effort that also respect like their traditional knowledge, their culture. So this can make the community governance to become like more stronger and effective. And their involvement in the restoration research projects also ensure that the diverse knowledge system are used in monitor and evaluate outcome. So their contribution help identify effective practice, adapt the strategy as needed. So the next slide, please. So I'll give you some example of like how women research group restore the successful women research group work. So the successful of the women research group in restoring nature inside Peace Park, they show how indigenous women can make a big difference in protected environments. So like for example, they by identifying the key medicinal plant, they have not like only preserve traditional healing practice, but also they advocate for the protection of the habitat where these plants are growing, and also this lead to the establishment of community protected area where the plants are sustainably harvested. And not only to conserve about the plant, they also like documented those valuable animal species like amphibia, like all fish. And this one, their biodiversity study like also brought attention to those like endemic species, which is critical to the local diet. So those information can influence local in terms of like harvesting or fishing practice, ensuring the species survival while meeting with the community needs. And the women research group, they are also lead the restoration project that incorporate with native species which is value for their ecological and cultural significance. And this approach not only like to restore the biodiversity, but they also strengthen the community connection to their lands. And apart from like their documenting biodiversity, I think they make like powerful impact, like how communities start like respect and give more space to our young women or indigenous women or the local women to participate and share their perspective, share their knowledge, and include in every meeting or maybe workshop in like Sorry Peace Park, encourage it. So this is just an example of how our women research group doing the demonstrate that women leadership is not like optional, but it is essential. So their work, which is provide their work be a model for how conservation and human rights can go hand in hand. So this is just an example because I believe that there are women around the world, they are doing similar work. They also face like challenges like the conflict, the limited resources, or like many things they have to handle apart from doing the conservation works. So Next slide, please. So as I reflect on the case study, so I urge like the policymakers, donors, or organization to we need to support our women research lead conservation initiatives. Also, we need to promote a policy that integrates the human rights into the environmental governance. And we also need to recognize and respect their knowledge and give the space for them to speak, to take a lead in the conservation and also get the leadership of indigenous women. So by doing this, we can support not only like doing the restoration work for our planet, for our world, but we also respect each other. We give the provide space for indigenous women, or we can build like a better future for human rights or environmental sustainability, which are not just like ideas, but they're also reality for like everyone. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunita. I think that was incredible, the kind of work that's happening in Myanmar with the Women's Research Group. It also kind of shows us what can happen, especially the specific knowledge systems that women hold and how important it is to be considered when we are talking not just about ecosystem restoration, but also conservation as a whole. Um, and thank you so much for sharing a little piece of that and that little story with us. Now we're gonna fly all the way to Cameroon. We have Blondine with us, who is going to do a very interesting work in Longi. Blondine is a communication director and a project coordinator for Refaka. She is part of this initiative. She's helping the Longi community to reforest degraded mangrove areas. He is also the point for the income generating activities under the Cameroon Mangrove Ecosystem Restoration and Resilience Project. Blondine, thank you for joining us. Are you able to hear us, Blondie? Yes, would you be able to unmute? I know that Blondine is facing some connection issues. Um, um, Blondine, would you maybe just in the meantime, if we have a issue, Blondine, we maybe if you can reconnect and join us, we can move on to our next speaker who is here, and we'll come back to you, Blondine. We have with us. Now we're gonna jump back from Africa and move all the way to the Pacific Islands with Ida, and she's a coordinator of the network of indigenous peoples, Solomons. She promotes the contribution of women in biodiversity conservation with a particular focus on the role of traditional knowledge in climate change mitigation, loss, and preservation. Ida, thank you so much for joining, and over to you. Ida?
Hello, Shruti. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to share in this meeting, and lovely to see everyone. So I think I'll just share. I believe James hasn't shared any presentation with you, Shruti. So I'll just talk about the experience from our work here in Solomon Islands, and specifically at the site, which we've implemented Women for Biodiversity project that's at Hagiulu in Isabel province. I will just share about the experience and also some feedbacks we had from the community and our women there, especially engaging in restoring their forests in Hagiulu. Yeah, so with our work at the Hagiulu community, since we've started the project, I can honestly say that our women have, you know, learned a lot of skills in terms of leadership, especially coming from communities where in Hagiulu, it's a matrilineal system where the ownership of land and resources is through the lineage from women. But the practice here is men still dominate in the decision making, especially in the development of resources in the community. But since we've started the project, our women have been, are coming out strong in terms of being confident in taking action and also advocating, especially in the restoration work that they're doing up at Hagiulu community. They are more brave and they have been the leading people in that area in Hagiulu and taking their rights, how should I say, position in people, taking the custodian and the owners of the land. So yeah, from this experience here, I always feel, proud of what has transpired so far since we've started working at Hagiulu community. And also, I'd like to also mention here in this meeting that we have to know that the men, especially in the community, the chiefs and the elders have been very supportive. So instead of women doing the restoration work themselves, it's the whole community coming together. So you'd see, Shruti, even our participants list, you will have men, women, boys and girls. It's a community thing. So I always appreciate, the men always supporting the women in their work or in their, especially replanting of trees in the area that's been burnt down for how many years now. So we've recently had a huge replanting of several trees. It's over several thousands of trees at the site, and the whole village has been working together in doing this. And in terms of the support we've been providing the community, really we are ensuring that whatever support the women need, especially in terms of leadership, training, and also in terms of putting in together a documentation of the work that they're doing, and just supporting them in any advice they need. That's what we've been giving them and encouraging them. And also, I'd like to also mention here in this meeting that the work our women are doing has been recognized in the country by various ministries, especially the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, And given that NIPS is part of Solomon Islands Climate Action Network, all our work have also been shared to them as well. So our work, Women for Biodiversity, is recognized in the country in at a lot of levels already. And I'm very proud. I'm very proud to be part of this, especially even our women too in Hageulu. And other women organizations in the country are also supporting, and all our work have been out in the mainstream media, covered around all the local media here in country. So yeah, I think that's all I can share for now. And yes, if you have any other questions, please you can ask later, but I'll give the floor back to you, Shruti. I think I'm taking too much time and taking other people's time. I think that's the update I'm happy to share right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ida, for joining us, and thank you so much for like ensuring that you shared a very valuable work that's happening in Hagiolu. It's truly inspiring. We have also put the link to the Solomon Islands case study for people who want to read more about it, especially on the connection of why tubi trees, which is what the women have decided to restore their forest with. What is the relevance? Why? And as Ida had mentioned, it's not just women, but also men and young people, and how act of just the mere act of restoring forest is brought the community back together and strengthened and revived some kind of conversation. So thank you, Ida, for sharing that with us. If Blondine is back, can we try to see if she is here? Blondine, would you be able to unmute and speak something? I'm unable to hear. Yes, Blondine. Can you say something? Sorry, Blondine, we are unable to hear you at all. Like it's very broken. Hello, Blondie, can you hear us? Your internet is very shaky. Um, hello.
Excuse me, Shruti. Blondine has just written to me. She's saying that she wants to rejoin, so I'll send her the link again.
Okay. In the meantime, maybe we can go to some question answers. In the meantime that we wait for Blondine, are you trying to say something? Okay, in the meantime that we address Blondine, we have some questions. I would request you to raise your hands and ask your questions. I see one. Meenal, would you like to ask that question?
Should be. Can I go ahead and ask? Okay, great. Very inspiring presentation from Myanmar. I wanted to ask, what was it that led the women to decide to restore areas of the Salveen Peace Park? And also, what is right now the legal nature of community rights over land? And how the governance system in the area is working?
Yes, Mina, thank you for the question. So I would like to say why their women research they are decided to restore their forest and document those their community forests. Because I think if we do not do this, maybe we will lose our resources one day. Because we stay in the location, the place where the conflict still going on, and community have to flee from their homeland. So I think it's very important, like new generation like us to like start doing something, like collaborate with the elders who have more knowledge, so we can like document our forest, document those valuable species. So we have like a publication book or something that will be very helpful for the community, like in terms of like herbal use, in terms of like material use. So this is not only like to preserve our knowledge, but this is kind of like preserve our knowledge and also share with like another generation. And after we start doing the research, this is very helpful because our community they can like identify and create like the governance structure, the policy guideline, whether we need which species we need the urgent protection. So yeah, this is very important to our to our community, to our village, to the current people who live inside Peace Park. So yes, we need to do this. So I think yes. I hope this is answer your question. I mean,
Maybe I can add about the land tenure.
yes, yes.
Thank you, Mumu. Yes, I'm Lottie, also work with Mumu from Kisan. To answer your question about the community's legal rights, so the Salween Peace Park is not recognized by the central Myanmar government which is okay because there is a military dictatorship. It's an illegitimate government, if we can even call it that. So they've never been recognized by the government. The central, state government also has never recognized Indigenous people's rights, and in fact, historically have called Indigenous people's lands as vacant or fallow or wasteland under colonial era laws. So under the local government, the KNU government, collective land tenure is recognized, and the communities where we work, their community forest and their customary gore land has been registered, and they have their land rights, their collective land rights, as well as individual. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Lottie and Sunita. I think in this we got Meenal's acknowledgement. We have a question for Ida. Samina, would you want to ask the question?
Yeah, thank you, Shruti. It's just a generic question, but I was really curious because I just wanted to know what has been the biggest challenge for NIPS in the restoration process of the 2B trees or the restoration process in general. Thank you.
Ida?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think the well, there are a few challenges that we have working with the community in Hagiulu. One thing is the geographic location. It's right up in the mountains, and also in terms of having engaging experts, especially our botanists and our people from forestry, to support us in providing technical support. It's their availability that we have to walk around. Sometimes it delays our work, and then also including the geographic location. So and transportation to the area Apathagilu is very limited, only twice in a week, sometimes once. It's very those are the main challenges, for NIPS. So we've tried other ways to address these challenges, because it's really nice, sometimes we want to go in terms of addressing these challenges. We sometimes go and spend a whole week there in the community and before coming back. So I think for us as the NIPS, supporting the community implement activities, those are the main challenges that we face. And also, sorry, this one I have to mention too. We still have people coming up to the community, some people who are also landowners, they also bring in people to have consultations, especially for mining. So we've been, since our time working with the people there in Hagiulu, there have been occasions that we have middle people coming into the community talking about mining, because there's mining operation happening in an area very close to the boundary of Hagiulu. So so these are the challenges that we've faced.
Thank you, Ida.
Thank you, Ida. I think this is also another thing that we have realized when restoration is happening, is one of the biggest challenges that a lot of these restoration sites where the wonderful work all of you've been doing is that of developmental projects. It could be mining, it could be logging, it could be forms of that, where communities have been constantly threatened and they fear um, aspects of violence, or even the fact that their territories will be taken away from them, for them to even be able to continue any kind of restoration work. So it is a huge challenge. It is something that communities all over the world have been consistently working on. And it is important that we acknowledge that when we are going ahead with supporting some kind of restoration work that is community led and gender responsive. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it's also important to highlight the fact that a lot of these women who are actually doing the restoration are unable to be here today, is because of the fact that it's very remote. Sometimes internet access is a privilege for a lot of us. So they are also something that they are unable to join us because of these various challenges. And we have to find ways to bridge that gap to ensure that we get to cure more of this work. And we hope, and this was a small attempt to ensure that those are documented and their voices carry forward in forms of video and documentation, and through this, building evidence for it. Um, Let's try one more time to see if Blondine is back with us. Is Blondine here with us? Blondine, would you be able to unmute? Blondine, can you say something? Um, Unfortunately, we are unable to hear you, Blondine. Maybe we can try in again. Sumina, if you could let me know if Blondine has been able to address that. If just give me a thumbs up. But a quick summary of the Cameroon work, and we hope that you all also get to read more in uh, because they are both in English and French. The links will be put on the chat box shortly. Of the Cameroon case study is that this is a case study where they are trying to restore mangroves. Um, it's in Longi where these women have been able to restore a hectare of the mangrove forest. Um, just And as you can see on the photos, they have created little nurseries. They have done community mapping. I'm not going to be able to do justice, and I hope Blondine is able to join shortly. But essentially, they have also developed this as a way to restore. If you see on the bottom right of your screen, that was the mangrove before it was being restored. And if you see, they have created a nursery for themselves. There's the saplings that have happened through the mapping of the restored area. They have managed to map each specific individual sapling, and they have been able to monitor. If there's another photo, Nina, can so that's one of the terrain, and that's something that is both a challenge but also a learning is that sometimes during low tides and high tides, the people in Cameroon in Longi will have to wade through almost knee-deep water to go and plant these saplings. So you see these little splashes of green. They are all these are all the nurseries that's happening. There have been one of the positives that was there was the fact that there have been fishes that have come back to breed in these mangroves post the restoration. That wasn't there for almost 10 years there. I'm going to stop now because I think Blondine is better suited to share this story. We hope Blondine able to join us? Unfortunately, Blondine's internet is not working, so we will share the presentation that Blondine shared with us with all of you. In the meantime, we get back on track for a official launch of a platform that has culminated from the learnings of these various wonderful case studies. And for that, I'm going to hand the mic back to Mrinalini. Mrinalini, over to you.
Thanks, Shruti and everybody. And I think this is also a reality of where we see that something as easy as an internet access can be quite challenging, in particular when we are trying to support and amplify the cases from the ground. I think is also a learning for us is when you're really looking at true transformative changes, how do you really also ensure that these enabling environments, right, which could be something really very simple, do come up with these challenges, and it still again impacts on the participation of the voices that we are trying to kind of bring forward to the discussions around restoration, conservation. So having said that, I want to also take the opportunity to thank all the 6 pilot sites that have been our partners in this journey when we started this idea, visioning of this platform, right? The idea for Women for Biodiversity was with this knowledge that there is a gap of not only documenting these stories of resilience.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour, Blondie. Are you able to join
Vous
us?
m'entendez maintenant? Yes.
Okay, so let's okay, but we have online. Let's do that, and I'm going to come back to everybody on this one. Bonjour, Blondie. Lovely to have you.
Yes, thank you. Ok, merci aussi à vous. Bonjour. Désolée pour la technologie au Cameroun. Bon, j'espère que je peux présenter maintenant mon travail ou bien l'activité qui se déroule à Londres. C'est prêt? Ok. Merci beaucoup d'être patient. Je vais devoir présenter. Dans le cadre de notre étude de cas, nous aurons besoin d'avoir, nous allons faire un petit résumé de notre projet. Et dans le cadre de ce résumé, nous allons présenter le contexte. Nous allons présenter les principales activités qui ont été menées. Nous avons également ce qu'on appelle le cadre global de la biodiversité. Nous allons en grand 3, nous allons présenter les défis et les impacts, les défis, l'impact et les leçons apprises que nous avons vécues tout au long de la mise en œuvre de cette initiative. Puis à la fin, nous allons avoir une conclusion et des recommandations. La deuxième diapositive, s'il vous plaît. Voilà. Thank you. Vous savez, le REFACOF a une organisation partenaire qu'on appelle Cameroun Écologie. Et depuis plusieurs années, Cameroun Écologie a travaillé à Londi dans la restauration des mangroves. Et c'est de là que part l'inspiration de REFACOF, de continuer avec les femmes de Londi dans la protection et la conservation de cet écosystème. Puisque Londi est une banlieue urbaine qui est en perpétuelle dégradation à cause de l'avancée de la mer et aussi à cause de l'urbanisation. Alors, on a pensé, grâce à Lorsque Human for Biodiversity nous a donné cette opportunité, on a vu que nous pouvons amener ce projet dans la communauté de Londi, car c'est une communauté qui nous connaît très bien et qui sait qu'on peut les accompagner dans la restauration de leur écosystème. C'est la raison pour laquelle le projet DBJK a ainsi permis de poursuivre le reboisement des mangroves avec les femmes de Londi. C'est ça la situation de référence. Donc, ça fait plusieurs années que nous y travaillons et grâce à cette initiative, cela nous a permis de réveiller ceux qui dormaient déjà à Londi, car la communauté avait besoin d'un coup de pouce pour permettre de continuer dans cette lancée. Next. Comme vous le savez bien, Londi, je vous ai dit, Londi est dans Tribi 2e, le département de l'océan. Londi est appelé le village des pêcheurs parce que c'est une zone essentiellement... oui, yes. La communauté est composée des autochtones, des Batangas, et les premiers arrivés là-bas, c'était les Bakoko. Donc, là-bas, à Londi, la population est près de 500 personnes, dont 8 personnes par ménage. Next. Next, again. Ça, c'est la carte de Londi. On n'a pas besoin de la présenter. Voilà, les causes qui ont permis de penser à ce projet, c'est quoi? C'est les causes naturelles. Nous avons la hausse de la température, les orages inhabituels, la baisse des précipitations, les inondations. Nous avons également les causes anthropiques, c'est-à-dire les causes, la pression démographique, l'exploitation anarchique du bois de mangrove et la pêche non conventionnelle. Lorsqu'on parle de la pression démographique, nous avons la population, la croissance des êtres humains qui croît beaucoup. Il y a environ 10 ans, la communauté de l'homme n'était pas très petite. Aujourd'hui, on va trouver 8 personnes par ménage. L'exploitation anarchique de la bois de mangrove, car la communauté de l'homme étant une communauté de pêcheurs, elle utilise, surtout les fumeuses de poissons, utilisent le bois de la mangrove anarchiquement pour le plumage de leurs poissons. Parce que les raisons qu'ils avancent, c'est quoi? Le bois de la mangrove est un bois qui donne une bonne texture aux poissons. Alors, ils utilisent ce bois pour leur pain. Nous avons également les pêches non conventionnelles, c'est-à-dire les pêcheurs pour capturer beaucoup de poissons utilisent très souvent des produits toxiques qui tuent en masse le poisson. Et là, ça permet ça aide à la biodiversité de se dégrader rapidement, ce qui n'est pas très bien pour cette communauté. Next. Next, please. Alors, les groupes cibles de dans le cadre de ce projet, nous avons les femmes, les jeunes, les femmes, surtout les femmes pêcheurs, les hommes pêcheurs, les jeunes. Et parmi ces jeunes, nous avons des groupes d'initiatives communes, nous avons les associations des femmes, nous avons le réseau des femmes rurales, nous avons les groupes d'initiatives communes, les reboiseuses de Londi, nous avons les membres de l'EPACOF et les Women Major Group. L'objectif du projet était de renforcer les approches de restauration des écosystèmes sensibles au genre dans les objectifs nationaux et les engagements internationaux, en contribuant au débat politique pertinent avec un accent particulier sur les efforts de restauration. De manière spécifique, il était pour nous de partager l'état de prise en compte de la dimension genre dans les documents de politique de biodiversité du Cameroun, d'où le document MBSAP de l'étude qui a été menée par la consultante. un autre objectif, c'était d'informer et de sensibiliser les femmes rurales de l'Ordi, les associations communautaires et les organisations de la société civile dans la connaissance, dans la vulgarisation du concept de biodiversité, du cadre mondial, du lien entre le genre et la biodiversité, la Convention des Nations Unies sur la biodiversité, le lien entre biodiversité et changement climatique. Et enfin, nous avons soutenu les femmes rurales de l'Ordi dans cette initiative de restauration en les accompagnant à mettre en place des pépinières et en les accompagnant à reboiser cet espace dégradé. Next. Les principales activités étaient les suivantes. La réalisation d'une étude, comme je l'ai bien dit, de l'étude NDSAP, l'organisation des formations participatives sur le genre, les changements climatiques et la biodiversité, la restauration des espaces dégradés de mangroves de l'Ordi, la préparation et organisation des visites d'échange, l'organisation d'un atelier national de présentation des résultats du projet. Donc, nous avons eu 5 principales activités. Next. Les résultats que nous avons obtenus au cours de de la mise en place de ces activités. Nous avons eu 5 principaux résultats également. La place du genre dans les politiques de biodiversité au Cameroun est documentée, donc le document juridique est disponible. Et la connaissance, nous avons organisé une réunion technique pour l'amélioration de ce document qui a été fait en avril de l'année dernière. Les connaissances et la compréhension des femmes sur le mécanisme lié à la biodiversité ainsi que sur le lien entre biodiversité et les changements climatiques sont améliorées. 3 sessions de formation ont été organisées dans les communautés, principalement à Londi, qui était la communauté bénéficiaire. Puis nous avons pris les bénéficiaires indirects, qui sont la communauté de Kouma et de Mbamblé. À cet effet, 90 personnes, dont 20 hommes et 70 femmes, parmi lesquelles les jeunes, ont été formés sur la biodiversité, le genre et le changement climatique. Les communautés des bénéficiaires, les femmes leurs techniques ont été renforcées dans le domaine du reboisement. Next, please. Au total, 5000 plants de paludistes ont été plantés dans la zone dégradée de Londi. Après avoir fait une cartographie, nous avons identifié près d'un hectare et nous avons planté 5000 plants. 3 visites d'échange ont été 3 visites d'échange et le partage d'expériences entre les femmes sur les initiatives de restauration des mangroves ont été bénéficiées aussi par le RECAFO. Et il y a eu une visite à Chaiman où Rose Pélagie Masso, Madame Masso, Rose Pélagie nous a représenté. Nous avons eu une visite au Kenya où moi-même personnellement j'ai participé. Et une autre visite qui a été organisée au Cameroun en juin dernier où l'équipe de Women for Biodiversity. Dommage que le Kenya n'avait pas été représenté. Alors, voilà ce que nous avons eu comme résultat. Next. Voilà. Quels sont les défis, les impacts et les leçons apprises dans le cadre de cette initiative? Il convient déjà de relever que travailler dans la mangrove est un défi en soi. En plus de ce défi naturel lié à la nature de l'écosystème, nous avons d'autres défis. Il y a par exemple la mobilisation des ressources financières pour accompagner les initiatives de reboisement. Nous avons également la lutte contre les espèces envahissantes comme le palmier nipa. Le palmier nipa est une végétation qui pousse également dans la mangrove. Lorsque celle-ci est dégradée, ce sont les plantes qui prennent place, ce sont ces plantes qui prennent place. Nous avons également les intérêts divergents des communautés et des populations et l'influence des élites. Par exemple, à Kribi, ou bien à Londi, nous avons l'influence des élites comme c'est une zone touristique. Plusieurs élites affluent pour chercher des espaces pour construire de très grands hôtels attrayants. Nous avons la mobilisation des ressources financières pour le développement des activités génératrices de revenus au profit des populations. C'est-à-dire, en dehors de l'activité de la pêche, les femmes ont émis un appui sur leur accompagnement dans la mise en place des activités génératrices de revenus. Comme leçon apprise sur l'égalité homme-femme, nous sommes partis de l'expérience. Nous sommes partis de l'expérience de Cameroun Écologie, membre du PACOF qui travaille avec les communautés de Londres depuis plusieurs années. Next, please. Après cela, nous avons organisé une visite d'information qui a été organisée à Londres et les groupes de femmes ont indiqué qu'il y a beaucoup de nouvelles personnes et de nouveaux groupes qui se sont créés dans le milieu. La cartographie rapide a été réalisée, a permis de répertorier les nouveaux groupes composés d'hommes, de femmes, de jeunes. Le but était de mettre en évidence les approches fondées sur le droit de l'homme et sensibles au genre pour intégrer l'équité des genres dans la gouvernance de la biodiversité. Au cours de la réunion de lancement, toutes les parties prenantes étaient conviées, à savoir les associations des femmes fumeuses de poissons du Londres, Logique Mangrove, les jeunes exploitants du bois de mangrove, les jeunes pêcheurs, etc. Grâce à l'information et à la sensibilisation permanente et transversale tout au long du processus, toutes les personnes désireuses de participer au projet ont adhéré au processus et leur participation a été massive et remarquable. Next, please. Comme impact, le projet Multi Résilience en Gender Approach a été mis en œuvre avec succès. C'est une initiative qui a été très bien accueillie par l'ensemble des populations du Londres. L'étude sur l'analyse du plan stratégique et national pour la biodiversité et l'analyse de prise en compte du genre des politiques de biodiversité au Cameroun a été très bien accueillie par le gouvernement camerounais. De plus, le résultat de cette étude a permis au ministère de l'Environnement, de la Protection de la Nature et du Développement durable d'actualiser le NDSAP du Cameroun, ce qui nous a marqué lors de l'atelier national de présentation des résultats du projet. Next, please.
Sorry,
voilà quelques recommandations.
Blondie,
Yes.
you just have like another minute because we are about to end. So if you can wrap up, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much.
Donc, les photos qui suivent dans le PowerPoint présentent toutes les étapes de ce qui a été fait. Donc, l'appui sur le développement des activités. Voilà. Nous voyons comment les femmes sont en train de restaurer la mangrove, les résultats et comment tout le monde a été impliqué, les hommes, les femmes et les jeunes. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Blondine. Thank you so much for joining. And I know despite all of this, being able to pull through to share that wonderful story with us. Back to Mrinalini for the final launch, and then we can have a quick group photo, and then we will end this. But Mrinalini, over to you.
Thanks, Shruti. I'm also really glad, Blondie, that you were able to join us. This is going to literally take maybe hopefully 3 minutes. Shruti, just give me a time check on that one. Okay, so as I was just kind of continuing from before, so I'm really very happy to also take this opportunity together with the launch of the reports And the reports and the work that we've done over 3 years is the basis of this new platform. That was a vision of starting with the 6 pilot sites to see the need. And I think one of the biggest learning that we have done is that we need to be expanding this platform to also include all the other allies, partners of society, women's group who are engaging in restoration. So this is, you've also already seen our tagline that we've been using over the years is restore her rights. And this is what's going to also, we will be building this up platform further, including with the 6 pilot site, but also moving forward to include more stories, more sharing. So just quickly on the next slide, please. So basically just wanted to quickly share these objectives which are from the project. And then we are also building the same principles and objectives for this platform. Once again, sharing that the objective is to promote rights. And that has been, you've seen from all the sharing from our partners where we have had more NBSAP reviews, we've had exchange work, we've had advocacy and bringing our project partners to the CBD meetings. So that is also to advocate for policies and programs. So I'm just going to go very quickly. This will be shared with all of you. So that is to promote rights, ensuring that we amplify the work of the women and community-led restoration on the ground. The other one, as this webinar is doing, is to celebrate these women and the impact that they are driving towards social, cultural, and economic progress globally, and to collaborate. So as some of you may already be also following us, we also have a news flash, and we hope to continue broader with going beyond not only the 6 pilot site who will continue to share, but also inviting all of you to contribute to this news flash of the restoration site. And that is a space for learnings and dialogues and knowledge sharing. And the 4th objective is to empower. And this is together with the tools and resources and capacity building initiatives. Like this webinar is part of capacity building of seeing how we could help in sharing this knowledge with each other. Quickly on the next slide, please. So the core components, which has been about this restoration, like I said, we are embarking on this journey. We started this journey 3 years ago, and we're really happy to see these amazing, resourceful women who are doing amazing work. And so this has also been the platforms as an advocacy hub, right? So we have campaigns and how do we build partnerships, storytelling. And as an example, some of you have been familiar, these beautiful artwork that we have done. We've taken out some really good graphic and visual outcomes of these 6 restoration sites. And that's part of storytelling. Like how can we visualize into resources, not only the boring reports that we always do to donors and others and policymakers, but rather how do we also simplify the stories that are much more accessible, much more easier for communities on the ground to really understand. And of course, a learning resource center with workshops and webinars and trainings, and also where the work of this restoration sites have also helped us inform the international discussions around the CBD and influencing that with these amazing groundwork. And once again, I said the community exchange platforms. The idea is to keep continuing this, to bring in much more diverse voices, much more examples, many more ecosystems together to also have a cross-cultural exchange to foster solidarity. Next slide, please. Next slide. If you can have the next slide, please. Mina?
It was the next slide.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Can you hear us?
So with that, this is the last slide. So all of you have joined in. Please do join in, Okay. So please join in. We will be having more information coming up. Just go one step below for the QR code. So this is where, if you are there, it's also Shruti has put it up in these sites. So please join us to share it and help us also share your voices and your advocacy work. Part of which will also be contributing to the news flash that we will continue. And like I said, we are embarking on this journey to further build up on this collaborative work. So please email us on restoreherrights@biodiversity.org, and please keep posted on the newsflash, subscribe to our newsletter, because we will be sharing more updates. And once again, I want to take the opportunity to thank all the partners who have been part of this process and who have built the baseline for us to better understand the lived realities, the challenges, the stories of resilience. And we are really hoping that this is a beginning of doing something and building this network further than the 6 restoration sites we started off with, but also ensuring how we can keep building this and strengthening this work, because the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework has started. Its mandate is until 2030, so we still have a couple of years, and we're hoping that during this part of the process, this platform, we'll be able to get more stories, more learnings, and to be able to amplify all that and inform some policy change going forward. So thank you very much for joining, for being part of that. I will leave it at that, Shruti, because we're running out of time. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Tina, for being so short and sweet and having a perfect ending. With that, I would request all of you who have been part of this to maybe quickly share your screen so that we can see your faces, including our interpreters who have been so kind enough to join us and help us and share a little bit. And they've been here for the extra couple of minutes too. Thank you so much to our interpreters, Antoine and Matilde. And then Sumina, Mina, the others, if you can just quickly open your screen, maybe we can do a quick group photo. Sumina, tell us when.
Okay, everybody on 3. Wait a second. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry. No, one more. One more time. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of you for joining. Thank you to the interpreters. Thank you to Blondine, Ida, Lottie, Sunita, Mubu, everyone for sharing your stories with us. With that, we close the Africa Asia Pacific region launch, and we hope to see more of these stories going around. And please feel free to share all these links to the larger network, to the larger circles, and hope to see you soon, someday. And if you want, do